Hi, and welcome to Untethered with Jen Liss, the podcast that's here to help you free yourself from the crap that's holding you back so you can claim the life you're meant to live. I'm your host, Jen, and in this episode, we are going on to our next practice in the Untethered Practices series, acupuncture. Let's go. Hi, friend, it's Jen. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode, I'm talking about acupuncture. Now, what I will say before we even begin this episode about acupuncture is that it is less focused on the mind and more focused on the body. And therefore, it is slightly different than some of the other things that I might be talking about. It's more in tune with Reiki and moving energy through the body. However, I'm a firm believer that both the body and the mind and your heart, heart, body, mind are all incredibly important in helping us to untether from the things that we don't want to be doing, the things that are holding us back, what's keeping us stuck, and help us move forward into the life that we know is truly, truly meant for us. So taking care of our mind, body, and soul, heart, whatever you want to call it, those three components are all incredibly important. And I'm excited to talk about acupuncture. I feel like it was one when my editor and I were talking about what are the things that we want to talk about in this series. I was like, you know what? My editor's my husband, by the way. I'm like, we tried acupuncture and I feel like it's one of those things that I've been curious about it for a long time, but I had never done it because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why I should do it. I didn't understand what it was possibly going to do for me. And then I knew it involved needles. And I am one who multiple times has now passed out from giving blood. So, needles make me a little nervous and they might make other people a little nervous too. So I'm like, I think creating some awareness around how supportive this practice could potentially be for people could be a really great thing to focus an episode on. So we're going to. And I would also like to tell a story about how I even came to the point of trying acupuncture, how my husband, Joey, came to the point of trying acupuncture. But first, just a little bit of history, because I think it's interesting to know how far back this practice goes. Because acupuncture started in China around 3,000 years ago. This is an old practice. It's an old modality. And acupuncture, like Reiki, is based on the traditional Chinese principles that are exclusively about directing the flow of energy, or chee, which happens to be spelled QI, by the way, that chee energy that moves through our body. Today's acupuncturists often combine that traditional Chinese medicine of qi with Western medicine. So using the needles to actually stimulate the body's systems. So most acupuncturists that you might find in the United States, at least, probably practice some form of a combination of Eastern and Western medicine because of our deeper understanding that we have, of course, in Western medicine today with the science that we have is then applied to this broader idea of the qi, of the energy that is moving through our bodies. So I think it's so interesting because you hear a lot, you read a lot about acupuncture and, it's associated with like quackery and like not really being a thing, but 3,000 years ago, people were using this for something, and it has continued. Like that tradition is still there. And I just believe there has to be something that's been so rooted in humanity and so rooted in this culture, and it has been supporting people for so long. They're always, I would never just completely say absolutely not, but I'm also a fence sitter. So here we are, which is why we're talking about all these practices, because I think there's so much value in giving some of these things a shot to see if for me, might this be helpful? I don't know. Why not give it a try and see, right? Even if it is a little scary, even if it is a little bit weird. And I hope through this series, maybe it feels a little bit less weird as you use the things. So Acupuncture is used, the whole purpose of it is to relieve some health conditions and symptoms such as pain. So that's why most people today would go to an acupuncturist. Now, again, traditionally, it's all about moving that energy through the body. However, if that energy in this way of thinking, if that energy is not flowing freely through the body, it's got some kind of block, it's not moving properly. Therefore, you have pain, you have ailments, you have psychological problems, according to this, old medicine, that if things aren't moving correctly, then it's going to cause it an unbalance. So what the acupuncturist does is they insert very thin steel needles into the patient's skin at what are called acupoints. So those acupoints are intended to rebalance the body's energy so that it will release natural chemicals that will perhaps fight the symptoms, fight the illness, or, just move that energy through the body in the way that it is supposed to be flowing. And what's interesting, you'll hear multiple things, because some resources that I found will say there are scientific studies that have confirmed the effectiveness for some conditions. And then you have others that say it's absolutely just BS. So you'll hear both sides of the equation out there in the world. And I think with anything for anybody, I'm like, what does it hurt to try to see if it could potentially support you? Which is exactly how my husband and I came to try acupuncture. So he came home from work one day in immense pain. Like immense pain in his back. He was hurting so bad, and I had no idea what the heck to do for him. And so, I try massaging it. We're trying biofreeze. I'm like, did you throw it out? What happened? Like all the things. He's in so much pain. He tries to go back to work, and he's like in so much dang pain. He has to come back home. Well, in the meantime, this is when I'm flying off to LA to go to an event. So I leave my husband in this situation of being in extreme pain. I felt absolutely terrible, but had no idea what to do for him. He calls the doctor. They can't get him in for God knows how long. And so while I'm gone in LA, he decides to call up an acupuncturist here in town. And there's somebody in our neighborhood who does it. And so it's like he's able to limp there over to the acupuncturist. And he's like, I'm so willing to try anything, because none of the things that I'm trying for this back situation are working. So he goes to her, and the whole experience, like, he's just like, he's like, it's like getting a massage, but you're not getting a massage. This is how he's explaining it to me. And I'm like, what? They're sticking needles in your body. How is this possibly feeling like a massage, Joey? He's like, it was wonderful, but it didn't cure his back problem. So the interesting thing about his back thing is that it was going away completely, and then all of a sudden seizing back up again. He was in so much pain. So he finally discovers, after all of this, that he was passing a kidney stone. He hadn't thrown his back out at all. And that's why the pain was like coming on and then going away and then coming on. He was passing a kidney stone. And as soon as he went to the Western doctor, they did know exactly what it was. And, maybe if this acupuncturist had known exactly what it was, maybe she could have cured him with needles. Who knows? Well, the world will never know. Maybe she helped him pass it, because it did pass pretty soon within the time that he had gone to acupuncture to when he ended up passing the stone. So who knows? The world may never know. But what did happen is that Joey fell in love with acupuncture. He passed the kidney stone, and he picked up a new practice that he really loves. And so he was on me. He's like, you've got to go try this. Like, it's so great. And he'd been a few times. He's like, you've got to try it. Finally, in December, for my 40th birthday, he had gone and saw the acupuncturist, and he was like, I really want to get my wife in. Do you have anything next week? And she had an appointment on the morning of my 40th birthday. And I was like, what better way to spend my 40th birthday than trying something completely new that I've never done before? So I scheduled an appointment, and she asked me a million questions. before I even got to the appointment, the forms that you had to fill out, I was like, dear God, this is very in depth. So I fill out a million questions and I get there. A lot of them strangely were about my period. Like there were a lot of period questions. And I was like, wow, but I have also had a lot of problems in that realm. So I was like, maybe this is really something that can totally support me in that realm. So I walk in to the place and it has this very Eastern medicine kind of feel. It's actually in her garage. So this lady lives in our neighborhood, and then she has her acupuncture spot in kind of a garage that's back behind their house. It's very nice, actually. It's super cute. And so, I go in and I sit down with her and she asks me a million more questions, very pointed. Like she has obviously read all of the answers to all of the things that I had written down, and then asked me a bunch of questions. And I assume that is how she knew where and when to put the needles into my body. So she asked me a million questions. I get up and I lay on the bed and it's warm. Don't you love when you go get a massage and there's the warming pad on the bed? That is the best thing. I'm always freezing. So I just love to get in the bed and get all nice and cozy. And the only thing is that my hands had to be sticking out. And I always love with a massage to put my hands underneath the blanket on the nice warm. Anyway, I had to have my hands out because she stuck needles in them. So anyway, I did not watch her putting the needles in my body because, again, I have passed out multiple times. So I was like, okay, not going to watch. But I closed my eyes and I asked her, okay, what is this going to be like? Is this going to hurt? She's like, it can be like a little poke. She's like, it's not going to be painful. If it is painful, something is wrong and I need to place it in a new place. So I'm a little bit nervous, but also so curious and also nice and comfy on this nice warm bed. And she starts putting the needles in, and I think she started, I'm trying to remember now because I've been multiple times now. I think she starts at my head. And I have TMJ in my jaw. So that's something that she has worked on. So she's put them in my jaw, in my neck, at the crown of my head, I believe. And it felt like she was just covering my body in needles. It's just like ping, 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 ping. And it really was not painful. I will say nothing was painful. There was one that she put between my toes. And I was like, ooh, something is wrong there. I don't think that was supposed to happen. And so she moved it and then it was fine. It did have a little bit of that, like if you ever had a silver filling and you bite down, it was not to that extent. But just like a little like, ooh, that's not supposed to happen. But otherwise it was all good. But then you have to lay there. She puts them all in and then you have to lay there completely still, obviously, because you have needles all over you. So she puts on music and she leaves for like 20 or 30 minutes. And then she comes back and removes them. So that's the process. Talk to the person, you lay on the table, they put the needles in, and then they leave you there for a while. And then they come back and they take them out. Now, here's what is so interesting to me about when I did acupuncture. So when I do breath work, I see colors. That is something that I see whenever I'm meditating, when I do breath work, and apparently when I do acupuncture, I see colors. There are some colors that are much more prevalent than others. I see a lot of purple. I sometimes see blue. I'll sometimes see red, orange, yellow. I had never seen green, like green, green, green. I had never seen it before until I did acupuncture. The very first time. So she puts all the needles in and she leaves. And there are these, I'm like, have my eyes closed. And there are just these big waves of green. It was so fascinating. I couldn't focus on anything. I couldn't focus on the fact that there's needles on my body because I was just seeing these waves of green. So I don't know if any other listeners see colors. This is not something that everybody sees when they meditate. Some people see a lot of other visuals. They'll see animals or just other kinds of visualizations. Some people see absolutely nothing. I tend to see color not every time, sometimes, but with this particular acupuncture session, I saw so much green. And so when she came in to take out the needles, I was like, that was the wildest experience. I was just seeing all this lime green. She's like, well, we were moving this energy through your body in a way that, there were some things that were blocked. And so it was moving something through your body. So fascinating, because I did feel, I guess I will say, I felt so relaxed. Joey's totally right. It felt like getting a massage. And I can't even explain why that is. It's kind of like when we did Reiki. There's just this soft feeling happening in your body, whether that is, placebo effect or whether it's real. I don't 100% entirely know. I don't know that we can 100% entirely know with today's technology. Can we see waves of energy? I can't wait till we can see that to the degree that could really support us in understanding for sure what is happening. But it really felt like something was going on. Something was happening. I get up and I just felt so good. I'm like, oh, I just feel like soft. Everything just felt really good. And I was like, what is that green? That's so wild. So I scheduled another acupuncture appointment, and it was really great. Also, she really worked on my jaw at that next one. And it has been, I'm not joking, my jaw has been so much better since that session. I didn't see green. I didn't see it that time. And I was kind of expecting it, like, oh, am I going to see the color? And all I can think is that perhaps if all of this is actual truth, if it really worked, maybe those waves of green were something that needed to move, and it moved in that session, and now it's not needed. So who knows? I'll have to fill you in if I go get acupuncture again and I see these waves of green. So Joey's had acupuncture a few times. I've had it a few times, and I don't know if it's something that I'm going to keep up a regular acupuncture practice, but we really love the woman in our neighborhood who does it. Anybody who happens to be in Portland, Montevilla Acupuncture, she's so great, so thorough, and just amazing. And I'm just so curious if any of the listeners have tried acupuncture, if this makes you curious to try it at all. I am, all I can share is my personal experience with it, and really the why behind it is simply to move energy through your body, to release any stuckness that might be happening of that chee energy from flowing through your body, bringing that energy into, if you picture like a block, if there's a roadblock to your energy, say somewhere in the middle, somewhere in your gut, your energy that should be flowing all through your body isn't flowing, it's hitting a block. And then all your good energy that's supposed to be flowing there isn't happening. You might have an ailment. And that's the whole idea behind it, is that open that up, and then it will release those kinds of problems. It'll release the muscles, everything will be getting all that goodness that it's supposed to be getting. So if you give it a try, let me know. I would so love to hear if you try this practice. I found that it costs right around the price of a good massage, of a great massage, at least here in Portland. The price is, around $100 for a session. And the nice thing, particularly about my acupuncturist, is that she does take HSA cards. So if you have a health savings account, then your acupuncturist might take an HSA card, which is kind of nice because it is considered medicine. So I encourage you, give it a shot. If you do try it and like it, if you try it and you don't like it, I would love to hear. Either way, you can reach out to me on Instagram at UntetheredJen. You can reach out to me via email, hello@jenlist.com. Let me know what you think. Give it a try and try this untethered practice. Thank you so much for listening to this episode and for diving into all these untethered practices in this Untethered Practices series. It's been so fun just sharing some of my stories, sharing some of my experiences with these different modalities and how it has supported me and even my husband in some ways. So give them a shot, and you just keep shining your magical unicorn light out there for all to see. I'll see you next time. Bye.